Forex inflows into Nigeria's economy dropped 40% to $26 billion. Mobile subscription rises to 225.88 million in January 2023. Google to stake $4 million on black-founded startups in Africa and Europe, plus oil inches up on China rebound. This is Business Express on a network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Katung, Babatunde, your guide. A warm welcome to you this morning from the nation's capital city. We start by informing you that foreign exchange inflows into Nigeria's economy fell year on year by 40% to $26.32 billion in the first 11 months of 2022 from $44.01 billion in the corresponding period of 2021. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN monthly economic report showed that aggregate foreign exchange inflows into the economy was $63.57 billion, representing a 26% decline compared with $86.34 billion in the first 11 months of 2021. The data also showed that foreign exchange outflow fell year on year by 2% to $37.2 billion in the first 11 months of 2022, while outflows through the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN rose by 2.14% to $30 billion in the first 11 months of 2022. In the report, the CBN noted that on a monthly basis, net inflows through it rose by 16% to $2.02 billion in November 2022 from $1.74 billion in October 2022. Based on new industry data from the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), the adoption of mobile technology continues to grow in Nigeria, with the total number of mobile subscriptions hitting 225.88 million in January 2023. This is 3.66 million more mobile subscriptions than the 222.23 million subscriptions that were recorded in December 2022. Teledensity, the number of active telephones per 100 people living within an area, grew to 118.51%. Broadband penetration in Nigeria also grew to 48.2% in January, with the number of mobile internet subscriptions at 155.68 million. This is set to surpass the government's broadband penetration target of 50% for 2023. NTA Nigeria retained the lion's share of mobile subscriptions in Nigeria, with its number of subscriptions growing to 91.95 million. Airtel grew to 60.56 million, Globacom grew to 60.34, and Nine Mobile grew to 13.03 million. We'll take a break now, but Business Express will be back in a short moment. Meanwhile, the Global System for Mobile Telecommunications Association GSMA has said 5G connections will double over the next 2 years, expedited by technology innovations and new network deployments in more than 30 countries in 2023 alone. Of the new networks to be deployed in 2023, it is expected that 15 will be 5G standalone networks. The forecast from GSMA Intelligence announced during Mobile World Congress MWC Barcelona 2023 point to a significant period of growth in terms of mobile subscribers and enterprise adoption. GSMA, which represents the interest of mobile operators worldwide, uniting over 750 operators with near 400 companies in the broader mobile ecosystem, noted that consumer connections surpassed 1 billion at the end of 2022 and will increase to around 1.5 billion this year before reaching 2 billion by the end of 2025. This momentum confirms 5G as the fastest generational rollout when compared to 3G and 4G. Budget deficits, a revenue needed to finance government business, among other challenges, have necessitated the need for ways of expanding the nation's tax net. To this end, tax experts at the inauguration of the Kubwa District Society of the Chartered Institute of Taxation are of the view that expanding the tax net through continuous reform is the way to go.
I can say on good authority here that Nigeria's potential is yet to be fully tapped. So taxation is the way to go, and as professionals, this is the area we are looking at.
It is expected by law that as a resident of a particular subnational state, that you declare your income on global level, irrespective of what you collect in salary. So this is what we expect all the citizens, not only in Kaduna, across Nigeria.
I am of the school of opinion, and that's universal anyway, that you don't need to increase the rate of taxes unnecessarily in a society that is not correspondingly improving in economic development. You can get more revenue without increasing the rate of tax by improving the efficiency.
Now, elections have been won and lost, and it is no longer news that come May 29, 2023, Bola Ahmed Tinubu would assume office as the new president of Nigeria for the next 4 years, having emerged winner in the just concluded presidential election. Indeed, one issue that he will be confronted with is how to fix the Nigerian economy, which has been underperforming the past few years. And so joining us this morning to discuss these and other tasks before the new president-elect is Aliyu Ilyas, a political economist. You're welcome, Mr. Aliyu, to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you had some nice experiences during the exercise.
I actually monitor elections. I have good knowledge of the election itself.
Okay, great. So we would need you to give us a sense of what is before the incoming administration.
Right, we all know that when there's new administration like this, Nigeria are expectant and we expect a lot to be delivered. However, it just has to be a short-term plan, a medium plan, and a long-term plan, because clearly it has 4 years to rule, and these 4 years there must be something that is very, very important for Nigeria. So if you look at for short-term, I would advise that we have high standard or cost of living, so it has to be cut no matter how it is, because Nigeria spend a lot because of it's a combination of a lot of things that comes together. So for us to purchasing power is very, very low. So there must be a deliberate intention to make sure there is more food availability, the supply chain process is better, more security. So there must be a roadmap in short term, because unfortunately this government that is coming in cannot tamper with the current budget. They can only do maybe supplementary budget, so they have to manage the current budget and work with it. So consequently, it simply means that they have to look at it very well and make sure they make the best use of it very, very key. And looking at medium-term plan that Nigeria must work on is human development. Now, human capital development has become very vital too. We need to create jobs in Nigeria, because if you look at it, we have over 33% of Nigerian youth that do not have job. We are not even talking about underemployment and a lot of things, and this is also fall on government. So there must be enabling environment, creation of job intentional. Then for long-term plan, if you ask me now, there's what we call National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 that succeeded the ERGP. Now, looking at that development plan, I think the new government need to come on board and make sure that the state buy into it and local government buy into it, because that's the problem. If you look at Nigerian stakeholder itself, we are not even more educated about the National Development Plan, and this will affect us. And that's why if you look at the then development plan that has to do with needs translate to seed to to look at needs. So these are what we need. So we need a project, a development plan that every stakeholder, the private, the public, the artisan, everybody will key into it, and there will be development. Perhaps if that is not seen as early enough, Nigeria will believe that maybe it is the same rhetoric and the same thing that we have been seeing. So I think there should be immediate short-term plan, medium-term plan, and long-term plan that will engender development in Nigeria.
Well, now there's one thing that's would definitely be prominent in the coming weeks,
right,
which is fuel subsidy.
Right.
This, you talked about the budget. Of course, the new administration will have to continue with this budget, and right, this budget we are running now has a provision that fuel subsidy will run into mid 2023, and then there will be no subsidy.
It's a big question for the incoming administration to answer, and I think it's too big for them to chill. Now, the current government said by June there will be removal of subsidy. Now, you agree with me that apart from Abuja and other big cities, some states are already buying fuel at over 300 naira. I can tell you, I've moved around, and I think it's only Abuja, maybe some part of Lagos, some even in other northern part, people buy fuel at above 300 naira already. So now coming in now to say you want to remove the subsidy, yes, it's good to remove the subsidy, but there must be cautious optimism, because Nigerians are seeing the purchasing power being difficult now. So there must, if I would advise, this current government must be very, very meticulous and make sure they remove this thing gradually. It cannot be removed once, because if you remove it once, it will bring a lot of negative effect to the economy. The transport will be, there will be a lot of, even inflation, everything will like double. So I advise this current government to go back. They have 2 months to plan before they take over, and make sure they bring out a possible solution that will encourage us to remove this subsidy. Perhaps if you want to remove the subsidy, you must bring up a what we call shock absorber that Nigerians if you recall, even this present government promise or proposed to give each individual 5,000 naira. Then most of us actually said no, because if you look at it, it's money you are giving for people to spend immediately. You must create a solution. Perhaps if you look at other economics, like maybe Indian, there is a card that people that are less, in terms of social strata consider. If you even go to Rwanda, they have poor of the poor. We have medium poor. They have 4 strata that that these people with this card, they can easily go to the market, and these are the range of things they will benefit from. So that is what we have to. So we have to look at our economy and move beyond where we are coming and provide a solution that will consider the poor, the rich, and put everybody in a strata. If not, if you just say you want to remove the subsidy, I assure you it will bring much more difficult, considering that we have issue with foreign exchange, we have issue with inflation, a lot of insecurity are still there, staring us on the face. So there's a lot of things that need. So I will advise the economic team of the present government, of the president-elect, to consider even the economic policy of the other presidential candidates, and make sure they bring it and make sure that we have a better economic system that will capture the immediate solution, immediate need of Nigerian citizens.
So you are worried about a full removal of fuel subsidy, and you raised the issue of foreign exchange, right. And indeed, foreign exchange is what we don't have. People are queuing up for school fees, people are queuing up for medicals abroad, and the dollar is simply not there. So if we continue to pay the subsidy,
Right.
wouldn't it be exacerbating this problem of the foreign exchange scarcity?
But I don't know what federal government did to aviation industry. If you notice, from 90,000 naira flight ticket, that's reduced drastically to 40 something.
More players came in and crashed the price.
That is how competition should come in, and we should look at it. That's very, very key. So government need to do anything possible to make sure that Nigeria life is better, because poverty is deep, that we need to move out of it. And that's why we talk about job creation, and private player must come into it to create a balanced competition. We must unbundle a lot of things. And another thing that is causing this problem, beyond even for the energy, the power sector, maybe they need to unbundle it the more, because you can't tell me that we have one electricity managing about 6 states. No, maybe there's a need for us to divide it. By the time we divide it, we know that if I don't have A, I can possibly use B. If that competition comes in, everything we can, because energy is another thing that we must look into. Very is gulping us a lot, and we are not seeing a lot benefit to it. So government must look outside, and another thing is that a lot of policy are coming up. We must be careful of policy some and sort. Anything that you can make do from this past government, you can continue. Like the issue of infrastructure, if it's sustained like that for the next 3 years, Nigeria will move more. But other things that need to be critically examined, and I think economic team is a major thing. We need people that are pragmatic, that can really see, not people that will sit down in their office and be determining economic policy. You need to go to the street and see what Nigerians are actually feeling. You need to bring up economic policy that affects common Nigerians. That is very, very. So with that, I think that will solve our problem. But the immediate solution must come in. Nigeria must see Suko. Fuel queue must disappear. We must have available naira to spend. We must be secure. We must be able to move the way we want to move, and there must be availability of credit. I listened to the president-elect yesterday when he was talking about creating student loan, creating credit for students. There will not be strike. I think those things are too early to be mentioned, because Nigeria will hold you responsible for anything you made mention of. I think they need to go back, sit down within that 2 months, and give, perhaps they will be interacting with the current government as they are going to hand over. So they should look at those policies and make do of the one that they need to make do, because Nigeria must change, and that's what all Nigeria is yearning for.
Okay, before I go to the school loans and the strikes,
Right.
I listened to you talk about electricity, the energy crisis, and I want to draw inference from Plateau State, for instance.
Right.
Some years back, I don't know what is obtainable now,
Right.
but I know you have the public sector energy, and then you have the NESCO option.
Right.
And I remember vividly that in my uncle's house, if NESCO, for instance, wants to do some repairs, they will inform them, they will pre-inform them that you will be out of power service for this number of hours, and that way you can plan yourself around it, and in a way it was more reliable. I can't speak for now because I haven't been there in a while, but it was more reliable than the public sector, the public power supply.
I think we can only expect that from maybe water board. I think that's the only area now that they will inform me before they even ask. Perhaps there's a bill in National Assembly going on now. I think it has get to second reading. The bill says that an environment like Iduyad, like Ogba in Lagos, like Ariara, they can come together and have their own power plant. So if that is allowed, I think that is what this government should also look at. If a particular industry thinks they deserve to have, and that's why it should be on concurrent list, not exclusive list, where individual can come together and say, let's house have our own power plant. By the time we have, like, for instance, in Lagos, if there could be like 8, 10, different one, then people will take charge of it by themselves and make sure that it functions very. I think that's the way to go. We must unbundle that area as well and make sure that individuals, companies, group of, like a place like Gwarimpa Estate shouldn't be expect power from, the general source. It shouldn't be like that. Like a place like Iduyad shouldn't expect the same power we are using for residents to be using here with commercial. So this is what we think this government should come and do. By the time you do that, in 3 years, private sector will come and invest and they'll get their money, because in private investment are enough to cater for a particular need, and people are paying to them directly, and they are also paying to maybe by the government as well, I think that will be fine. They must find solution because we are losing a lot of companies. I can assure you that countries around Nigeria are benefiting from industries because they are they have more power availability. If you go to a place like Ghana and also most of our industry are moving to that place. And the funny thing is that Nigeria is the market. You know, Nigeria with 200 million, those countries, they barely have 50 million people. So when they produce anything there, they bring it down to it. So we must say Nigerian first at this time and make sure that we invest and unbundle on what we are supposed to, because that is the infrastructure that will engender development, create job, and MSME will also benefit from, because all this industry, MSME find way of also producing small things that they make do to produce for further production. It's remain their own inbound for production.
I'm told I don't have much time, but any more time, but I will just crave indulgence to ask this last one.
Right.
The fight against corruption is one government since '99 has been hammering on. What is the task before this new administration?
I think this new administration should also look at technology-wise. We must move beyond saying it. We must move beyond rhetoric. You know, our problem is procurement. Now, there is no corruption without procurement. So this procurement, this Bureau of Public Procurement should come systematically and make sure that anything that does not pass the tests of procurement process should not be approved. Because if we can tame it from that angle, corruption will reduce. Then corruption and nepotism, I think nepotism is another side of it as well, because if you think, because this person is competent but it's not my family, it's not this, it's not that, and you consider that person, you are going to jeopardize the development of that company, of Nigeria, and it will affect our GDP as well. So we must make sure we tame this corruption that is tearing all of us, because it's denying us a lot of things. So this current government, and it must start from them, because if it can start from up, it will cascade down. You know, and the fear must also be there that if you do this, and we must strengthen our EFCC and ICPC, and I think fraud something. So we must look at thank you, NFIU. We must work on these things and make sure it actually serves us right. I think this present government have a lot of things to attend to. I don't envy them. They need to just hit the ground running and develop Nigeria as expected.
I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Ali Elias, for coming on the program this morning and sharing insights with us.
Thank you for having me.
Have a nice one. Moving on, oil prices inched up this Thursday, extending gains from the previous two sessions and signs of a strong economic rebound in China, with the world's top oil importer, though gains were capped by a rise in U.S. crude inventories. Brent crude futures rose 12 cents or 0.1% to $84.43 a barrel at 0445 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 9 cents or 0.1% at $77.78. Both contracts rose about 1% in the previous session after data showed manufacturing activity in China in February grew at the fastest pace in more than a decade, adding to evidence of an economic rebound in the world's second largest economy after the removal of strict COVID-19 caps. The commodities market is next. Well, before we go to NGX Wednesday data, let's just bring you up to speed with the performance in February, where stocks saw the value of investments increased by 1.403 trillion naira despite concerns around elections. But the equities market ended the midweek session on a negative note as investors lose 162.15 billion naira. The all-share index shared 0.53%. to resume this morning at 55,508.61 basis points. 565.8 million securities worth 6.5 billion naira were traded in 4,340 deals. Equity capitalization fell to 30.2 trillion naira. Capital Hotel PLC, Transco and Guarantee Trust Holding Company were the most traded stocks at the end of the day's transaction. And we come to the end of Business Express this morning. Remember to send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. That's because we value your feedback. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. The program returns Friday at 3 p.m. I am Leah Katung Babatunde saying have a blessed day and God bless Nigeria.